Welcome, everyone. This is Al Gilbert with the Silicon Valley Business Travel Association SVBTA blog. Once again, we're doing a digital blog instead of a written blog. And my guest today is Mr. Will Tate. He's the managing partner of Goldspring Consulting. Welcome, Will.
Hi, Al. Hi, everyone.
Well, I like to start at the beginning in these things. Where did you grow up?
I grew up right here in Dallas, Texas, where I still live.
Very good. And how are you and your family doing these days?
Very well, thank you. Everybody is healthy. The Mrs. Tate had COVID. My daughter had COVID, but the son and I avoided it. So fingers crossed at the moment. Thank you.
And did you get a vaccination?
I did not. My father has, 84-year-old, and we're waiting on his second round. So I'm very pleased and very relieved that he's in the queue now.
Okay, good. So on the business side, how and why did you move from being an auditor at Dresser Industries to travel consulting?
Well, an offer. The best answer, that's the real answer, is my wife and I were trying to have a family, Al. And I was on the road constantly. And so when we were seeing the doctor and he said, Will, I've noticed you've rescheduled 4 of these appointments about you and your wife having trouble having a family. I think if you want to be involved with your family, you should be home. I think your wife can do fine without you, but I think if you want to be a part of it, you ought to quit traveling. So I took the travel manager job at my company to get off the road, to build our family, and obviously haven't looked back since 1995, I think that was.
But then why did you move from being a travel manager to a consultant? Well,
my company got acquired. And in the course of that acquisition, I was required to move cities. And my family has all been in the Dallas area. And it's important to me. So we stayed and stayed with the travel thing. Plus, I was really enjoying what I was doing. And Carol Salcido and Management Alternatives made me an offer to join up. And I did in 1999, I think it was. And here we are.
So, your move over to Goldspring Consulting, was that because Carol retired?
Yeah, partially. We at Goldspring had been looking at what we were going to do, so we ended up putting 5 companies together. So Management Alternative was one of the ones we bought. We bought, my partner Neil Hammond bought his company, which is Smart Caps. I had started a side technology business to support travel consulting called 3D Travel Metrics. We bought that. Julie Simpson and Susan Stowe had left John Caldwell's group and had started their own, so we bought that and we loaded all of those into Goldspring. So it was really a combination of timing for all of those companies come together.
Okay, and what niche did you feel your company could satisfy in the consulting world?
Well, we think the main advantage we offer customers is the independence, because we don't have any airline revenues coming in like some of the TMC consultancies. We don't have any hotel commissions coming in like some of the TMC consultancies. So because of that, we can just look at that one side of the coin and really pay attention to the buyer's needs. So we've tried to focus on that independence and just really sort of be that singular voice for the buyer.
Yeah, makes sense. Now, there's no shortage of travel consultancy firms out there, from one-man, woman shingles to established shops like yourselves. Why do some consultancy firms never gain altitude and other companies like Goldspring succeed? Where do you think other consultancies might fail?
Sure. Well, I just want to take a moment and sort of say, our best thoughts and wishes are with all of those that have been displaced, because many times people hang out a shingle because they've been displaced. And so they're looking for something to get them going and do it. And I certainly know lots and lots of people that have done that. So our best thoughts and hopes are with those, that they continue to be successful. But anytime you see a downturn like this, you see a proliferation of sort of single sole proprietors. I think there's a couple of things that make it difficult for those kind of folks to be successful. Number one is technology. At Goldspring, we have 5 proprietary technologies that we own, and control, and write and amend. And so when you have that, you have a lot of flexibility. When you're a sole proprietor, you generally don't have either time, resource, or money to build those kind of things. So that can be a hindrance to managing some complex parts of what we do. I think the second thing is a network to work with. At Goldspring, we have a lot of different folks that do a lot of different things. And because of that, they're attached in lots of different ways, networking. And that builds an opportunity to sort of build off of one another. When you're a sole proprietor, sometimes that's a little smaller or a more narrow kind of focus. And I think the third thing is a little bit of history. We've been doing this, our team now, I think our collective experience is almost 300 years inside of Goldspring. And, part of that's because you can look at my hairdo and realize that I've done this a few years. And there is something to sort of being a senior person in our industry. You just got to put the time in. And some of that means you've got to have been there and done that. And at Goldspring, about half of our team are former practitioners. And so we were travel buyers. So we understand kind of how that works. And there's a unique perspective to that, I think. Great question, Al.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. So speaking, you mentioned technology. To what degree can artificial intelligence replace or complement traditional travel consulting?
I think that's going to have to become a bigger part of what we all do. This pandemic, and I know we're all we've got pandemic fatigue from it, but this pandemic has put a squeeze on financial systems like never before. And that's not just in what we do in consultancy, but it's TMCs and airlines and hotels. So the logical outcome is that machine learning and AI is going to take those low value transactions and replace them with automation. And so we'll be able to do those kind of things for pennies on the dollar instead of dollars on the dollar. So just translating that to a TMC, for example, those really simple, where's my itinerary, what time was my flight, how's the traffic, whatever, those type of simple requests, we can automate those and handle those very quickly, efficiently, and raise the traveler experience because we're getting instant information. That's a great thing. In the consulting business, the same kind of thing. We're automating some of those low value transactions like, hey, can you send me the updated report? Hey, can I have a graphical display of this in a different way? By automating that stuff, we all get more efficient. We can drive down the customer's costs and then create a better experience by getting them more information more quickly in the way they need.
Yeah, I think your future and existing clients would be happy to hear that AI can deliver deliverables for pennies on the dollar versus dollars on the dollar. So an engagement that might have been $50,000, depending upon the scope of work now, if it's simple reporting, it might be $5,000.
Right.
Okay. So before everyone used to use LinkedIn as a platform to build relationships, which is important now. Tate, you were always very skilled at building relationships by willingly jump on a plane and speak before basically any GBTA chapter, as well as, over the years, you've offered endless educational seminars at GBTA conventions. So we thank you for that as an industry. My question is the Goldspring Masterclass an extension of that philosophy that you started so many years ago?
Well, thanks for that, Al. And I appreciate your kind words. It has been an absolute pleasure of mine to be able to teach and instruct and be a part of so many different parts of our industry. It is absolutely. And if you've been with me in one of those, I hope you see it's sincere. I really do love the networking and I love the education that we all do. And more times than not, I learn more from the audiences than ever I give, because that's where we are. We're all constantly learning. Masterclass was put out there to be a way to do two things. One, to create a network for displaced individuals so that they could have a way to stay sharp, stay skilled up while they maybe were between assignments. And so the second part of that was to try to bring some education into the marketplace that was complementary and hopefully helpful. And today, I think I saw our numbers. I think we've had 4,000 roll through the Masterclass series that we've done. We offer certification on that. You can see that on the LinkedIn site on our page. But it's been a real pleasure. And as I said, it's just terrific to learn from so many different people with so many different backgrounds. But thanks, Al. Yeah, we're very proud of being a part of helping the industry sort of move forward.
Yeah, and I know the primary motive of Goldspring Consulting for the Masterclass is purely altruistic. But to be fair and candid, there are probably some potential customers out there in the future as the economy recovers as a result.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we continue to hope we get our name in the press and people think of Goldspring when they have opportunities. That's absolutely true. But what's been surprising to us is the level of engagement that the attendees have had with our team. So our master classes run 45 minutes and it's once a week, and we do these modules, and each module has I don't know, anywhere from, let's say, 4 to 5 to 6 components to it. But so that's a 45-minute deliverable. But the interaction with the audience is probably another 4 hours a week. And that's a back and forth. Hey, you mentioned this. I saw this. How does that work? Or, hey, you mentioned this. Is that really a developing place? Is there someone I might call? So the interaction with the community has really been our favorite takeaway of it.
Yeah, very good. So wrapping up, a couple more questions. The COVID economy is almost a year old. Some furloughed and terminated hospitality professionals have found new jobs, few in the travel industry, more in the tech and senior care industries. There seems to be a lot of job postings, but few people are finding jobs. Do you have any ideas about that?
Yeah, I just came back from a lunch with a travel buyer who is also, again, gainfully employed, but looking in the marketplace and seeing exactly what you mentioned, which is there are jobs, but we don't see people getting placed into those things. I think, number one, there's a sort of reallocation of internal resources. So they're going to take some employee they have that job is going to get furloughed or displaced, and they're going to put that person in that. So I think that's one thing. But the second thing is our entire industry is just shrinking, isn't it? Bill Gates predicted half of travel will never come back. Asta predicted 70+% of all TMCs will be out of business without additional funding. So we've seen this sort of shrinkage in our industry, and until we get back on track, I think it's going to be that kind of a challenge for folks.
It is a challenge, yeah. And in my work with advisory options as chief listing officer, I'm helping people tune up their resumes and their LinkedIn profiles. But just in closing, what do you tell our colleagues? What will you tell our colleagues in the travel and hospitality industries who are basically feeling ghosted and discouraged?
Mm-hmm. Well, firstly, I'm sorry to hear that, because I do understand. You look, this pandemic, the work part is super important, and I get that. I absolutely do. But then you have the health and safety of our colleagues and our friends and our families, and nothing is more important than that. So the work thing takes precedent when everything else is okay. But the moment you have some serious illness in the family, then everything falls apart. And so my hope is that everyone stays healthy and safe. But for the optimistic part of our industry, the work part, I do think that we're going to come back faster than we see in GBTA and that we see in some of the other predictions. My sense, and again, I just hear it from customers talking to me about their plans for return to travel. My sense is that wide vaccine application, some leisure, pent-up leisure demand in the summer. Europe goes on vacation in the summer, and then late August-ish, the pent-up demand for travel comes back, and we start to see returns of 20 to hopefully 40% in that time. And there's just this sort of tidal wave of pent-up demand. We've heard from some of our customers that they believe travel is going to be a strategic sales advantage for their organization because they're eager to get back with customers, and they feel like some of their competitors will not. Now, when you start hearing that from all of the competitors, right, that raises a rising tide raises all boats. So we have the hope that will really turn into travel. So, I guess, Al, in closing, I'm optimistic that things will come back faster than we think. I'm optimistic. Russia, I don't know if you saw this, but Lancet just peer reviewed the Russia vaccine. It seems to be the prevalent one that's going to be distributed in Europe. So Europe's going to have a real supply base that they may not have had with some of the limitations of some of the other production facilities. The J&J vaccine's coming on. So it seems like supply is going to get there. If the public will take the vaccine, if they choose to do that, then, there could be some optimism that's hopefully beyond what we're hearing.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think we just need to be patient for a little bit longer than we want to be. I'll be moderating a panel discussion on February 18th with BAPTA talking about the future of workplaces. So you're welcome to listen into that. But I think it'll be positive as well. So we've been speaking with Will Tate, one of the founders and managing partners at Goldspring Consulting. We really appreciate everything you've done for the industry in the past, and thank you for spending this time with us, Will.
It's an absolute pleasure, and safe and healthy travels and family time with everybody on the line. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.